Gang, the coronavirus is sweeping the nation, it's planted its roots, and most scientists are saying it's not going anywhere for a while. Those nasal swab tests are hard to get and they're very expensive. Well, our friends at ProResults are doing rapid COVID-19 antibody testing to let you know if you have had the virus. They take cash or credit, no insurance needed, no doctor appointment required, and you get the results in 15 minutes. Gang, I've taken the test 2 times. It's painless, it's quick, it's easy. And How Did I Get Here is partnered with ProResults, offering you 15% off COVID-19 antibody testing. Just go to ProResultsAustin.com/HDIGH. That's ProResultsAustin.com/HDIGH for 15% off COVID-19 antibody tests. Go get your tests. Let's get down.
And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
It's time for How Did I Get Here? And now here is your host, Audi.
When we talked all night, you made me love.
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm in the midst of doing a podcast day. I was looking forward to having a follow-up conversation with you.
Yeah.
This has been a pretty we're 2 months from the last one, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
We did ours on June 2nd, so we're a little over 2 months from when we last spoke about this on the microphones. But you have, I mean, just so that people know that this thing has been going on, and I've been giving James credit throughout this thing, and it's not just because it was his idea for me to do this, as it was also, he's booked a lot of them. He's been the co-producer, like the booker of the show since June, a co-booker. So yeah, I really appreciate this experience so much, and what you've done for me has been life-changing in one of the probably the most positive life-changing experiences of my life. So I'm sorry that it George Floyd's murder, I think the good in it, which you can see a bit later, is that it inspired a commitment in people and happened at a time when people could accept a certain awakening. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Still no justice for Breonna Taylor,
No?
you know, but I'm good.
Are you, I know that you've been able to get through and make some music, and this song, World Stop Turning, is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous, powerful, and also it jams. I listened to it on headphones at first, and it was when I woke up this morning, and man, that panned Rhodes is awesome coming in. And then it kicks into like this serious, almost like a Living Color vibe at the end.
Mm.
What is that sample from that comes in at the end?
Dr. Khalid Muhammad.
Okay. What was it about? I mean, obviously it's how,
So I wrote that song the day after we had our first interview. So Mark Simmons, who's the drummer and percussionist in the Bobby Sparks project, he produced that song, and he had sent me before the George Floyd incident. He had sent me a demo track of the music, and I mean, we were just working on music like we normally do, during this time, right? And he said, "Man, I got this track. this demo track that I did like 20 years ago. And he was like, man, I got to update the music, but I want you to write, write to this track. And so when he sent me the track, I listened to it, and before I write a song, I kind of have to live with the music for a minute, right, to figure out what I'm going to say. And so when the situation happened with George Floyd, and after you and I had our interview, the lyrics, they came to me the next day. So I wrote to the track, and I sent the vocal stems back to Mark and the guys in the band, because the rest of the guys in the band, they all live in Dallas. So Brandon and I are the only ones that live here in Austin. So they're all in Dallas, and I sent the stems, and they went in the studio and just replayed the demo track to the vocals. And Bobby Sparks, he added the sound bite of Dr. Khaled on that piece at the end, and so that's how that song was created.
It's unbelievable. There's you referenced the title of our show in it. Where do we go from here? A lot in it was that was on your mind when you got in there that day, because it was just the next day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
While there hasn't been justice for Breonna Taylor, do you feel like there has been some justice? There's a recurring line in there. There's going to be some justice, and then it's followed by different lines that change throughout the thing. And do you feel like this wave has created change at all that would be lasting?
I think we got the attention of the world to really, really focus on, injustice that Black people deal with at the hands of the police. What I don't want to see happen is for, the attention of the world, and, things just kind of simmer down, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so we want to keep the issue in the face of the world, right? And we don't want it to become this thing where it's just like people were protesting, there were riots, and now everything just kind of calms down, and I can feel things. They've kind of cooled down, right? And in the song, there's a lyric where it says, "Black people, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
When the world stops hurting for you," right? Because we see this happen all the time, right? There's an outcry and an outpour of concern, and as soon as we have like what I call the kumbaya moment between all of the races, it's like George Floyd's death is pushed into the back, right?
Yeah.
And we look at the Breonna Taylor situation. I mean, that's crazy to me that how many days and counting, this woman still hasn't received any justice, for her murder. And nobody's talking about that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, but there's still protesting going on. It was going on like on Saturday night here, even downtown. I mean, it's not as much. It seemed to me that it was very angry too. Like I was watching somebody's Facebook Live from it, and it had gotten pretty intense.
Well, when I say things cooled down, it's like after a while, it became about everything other than George Floyd's death, right? So it just turned into this complete chaotic situation in a lot of cities, right? And I feel like the whole purpose of what people were protesting for, it got lost in a lot of the foolishness, right?
The
And that
foolishness, you
happens.
mean like the looting and the rioting that was happening that wasn't necessarily Black Lives Matter people doing it.
Some of that,
Yeah.
and also so many other movements that were trying to attach themselves
Yeah.
to
Yeah, yeah.
the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
And so I just want to keep the energy going in terms of, uh, you know, the awareness that, man, nothing's changed, right? You know, justice has not been served, and nobody's talking about the killings and the shootings that take place in Chicago, right? That's a whole situation that's going on here in America that the everyday person, they're completely unaware of, and nobody talks about that. Nobody writes songs about that. You should do some research into what's going on in Chicago and why President Trump felt it was necessary to bring in federal agents. When you get some time, man, look up
I will,
gun violence in Chicago.
Can you give us a little bit about? I mean, I know that the level of gun violence there is astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what people call. I actually read something about this a couple of days ago, where they were talking about this thing being called black on black violence.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Is that what's happening in Chicago?
You have a lot of homicides, a lot of gang violence, right? But here's something that I think about. When in the history of the United States of America have Black folks ever manufactured and produced guns?
Never.
So yeah, we have a gun problem in Chicago, but and the president wants to, send in federal agents to handle it. But I don't think he's being honest about how did the guns get in Chicago? How did that many guns get on the streets of Chicago in the hands of 15, 16, 17-year-olds?
Do you know how?
Yeah, the government brought them in.
Yeah.
The United States of America brought those guns into urban communities. They brought those guns into the South Side of Chicago. That is a fact.
How did they do that? Did you cut out?
No, I didn't cut out.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Ask yourself this, Johnny. You have in Chicago 16-year-olds that have military level firearms, right? Military guns, right? And you say to yourself, how easy was it for this 15 or this 16-year-old to get this gun? Go online and see how easy it is to order something, or ask yourself, if you can't order it online, if you know that you can't even purchase this thing online, how did it get into the community? How did it get into a low income area like that, man? Who can afford that? So, I mean, I don't know, exactly how those guns got into the streets of the inner city in Chicago. But I say to myself, if someone can't afford to buy one of those things, man, it's like, how else are they going to get it unless someone just brings it in there? Who in Chicago has planes, to ship that type of stuff in? So only the government can be to blame for those guns being there. Think about that. How else could it get there unless the government put it there?
Do you think it's some
Who
kind
has the who has the resources to get that many guns and bring them into Chicago like that?
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the only ones that have that. Where can you find this information out? Is there a location? Like, it's not NBC
Man,
News, is it? Or
you can go online. You can go online and just Google Chirac homicide, and you can see the killings, man. I think like a 9-year-old kid just got shot and killed this past weekend.
are they fighting over? Is it drug wars, or is it like turf wars, or is it just general gang wars? Or
I don't know, man. I'm not from Chicago. I got friends that one of my good friends, David Young, he's actually from Chicago, and first time I ever went to Chicago was with him to do a performance there, and I got a chance to go over on the South Side and kind of feel the energy over there, man. And I don't know the history like that of the gangs in Chicago. I don't know how deep it is with the people there. But what I do feel is that when you're when you live in an environment where it's hard times and there's lack and there's drugs. I mean, it's just like it's the perfect recipe for violence towards other people. So when I was growing up, man, in the summertime we had things to do to keep us out of trouble, man. But I don't know what opportunities kids in the inner city of Chicago have in the summer. What extracurricular activities that they're given, to give them an alternative to the violence.
I guess that this sort of like everything coming to a standstill also doesn't help that sort of anxiety within people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I've read a lot of stuff about the disproportionate levels of Black and Latino people getting this coronavirus and dying. Yeah, I think that you had an uncle, right, that passed from.
Man, I lost two uncles. I lost another one. I lost one on my mom's side and another one on my dad's side. So my mom, she lost her brother, and my father, he lost a brother.
And this is due to coronavirus.
And what's so weird, yeah, man. And what's so weird is my dad's brother. I just saw my uncle when I was in Memphis for my dad's funeral. At the end of 2019, like November 2019, and he and I were talking, and my uncle. He's really into reggae music. Mm-hmm. So. I brought up, I reminded him how, like, when I was a kid, he would always play steel poles, and he would play, all of these reggae bands, and how much of an influence he had on me becoming a musician. And I remember he would always, when he would come in town, because my uncle, he lives in Cleveland, Ohio. And whenever he would come to visit us in the summers, he would always bring VHS tapes of Phil Collins, and he would always tell me, "Man, you need to check out Phil Collins, man." And I never understood what it was about Phil Collins that he dug so much. But I reminded him of that, right? And he and I were talking. He was saying how he wanted to come visit me uh, in Austin, and then we had the whole situation where everything shut down, right? So he never got a chance to make it here, and yeah, so I lost him, um, and this was like back to back. My Uncle Marvin and my Uncle Johnny.
That's rough. Sorry
So
about that.
yeah.
Do you think, what do you think the reason is that it's hitting the minorities disproportionately, this virus? It's because
Well,
they have to work?
black people. Well, diabetes, you know, is really huge in the black community. High blood pressure, um, all of that. So when they first started talking about the coronavirus, they were they were saying how if you have high blood pressure or any like
Right.
heart related issues or you know diabetes, you got to be really careful with this virus. So
I guess it's probably the same also in the Latin community. They have some of those same health issues as well.
mhm. Yeah, I worry about my mom a lot because she um she has high blood pressure, and like over the last um I say like 15 years, it really forced her to change a lot of things, in terms of her diet and
Hmm.
exercise and all of that stuff. So I've been treating my mom like she's my daughter. Like every time I talk to her, like, what was the last place you went? Who were you with?
Yeah, yeah,
What are you doing? Like,
yeah,
don't go anywhere.
yeah.
So yeah.
I, yeah, well, I hope she stays healthy. And she's in Memphis, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, it's funny, Steel Pulse, didn't they have that song Ku Klux Klan?
I don't know
Wasn't
all
that
of their,
Steel Pulse?
their tunes. I don't know.
Oh. Do you get into reggae?
Yeah, I used to sing in a reggae band.
Yeah,
I love reggae. Yeah,
me too. Who are your reggae go-tos?
man, I love Dennis Brown, man. Uh,
I don't know him.
Dennis Brown, Blackie Uru, Peter Tosh, uh,
Love Peter Tosh.
Steel Pulse. Um, but Dennis Brown, man, he's probably my favorite uh, reggae singer of all time.
Yeah. All right, so let's go back to things that are going on and what's changed. I can tell you a couple of things. That one thing you gave me, the Willie Lynch letter, and the making of a slave,
Hmm.
when I went to see you and we talked, and I read that when I got home that night, and it was never required reading for me in any kind of thing I took. It's not, is it? Anywhere. It should be. It really that's. I mean, for you to sort of like that be the gateway to opening up my education about this stuff. It is the best place to start because you understand the mentality of the slave owner and the 3/5 of the human that the slave was considered at the time,
Hmm.
and that these were human beings, and they talk about them like breaking horses and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, when did you read it for the first time?
Man, I grew up with that type of material uh, in our house from the time I was a kid. Like my parents, um, they kept a library of information. So growing up in Memphis, um, we were always being educated on the history of slavery and you know America and uh, all that stuff, man. So I've been reading and hearing about um, stuff like that my whole life, man. There's a if you ever make it down to Memphis, you should. There's a museum. Um, it's like it's located, I think, right across the street from W.C. Handy, his statue. It's called Slave Haven. And a friend of mine, percussionist friend of mine, Melvin Turner, his family owns this place, and you'll get a chance to go down and see like uh, the Underground Railroad and where slaves that who were trying to escape to freedom, where they were like stored, and that whole history, of everyone involved in helping slaves, get to their freedom. So just things like that, in Memphis, it was just everywhere, right? And sometimes I have to keep that in mind when I talk with certain friends and just certain people. You grow up a certain way and you think, everybody grew up that way.
Yeah.
You even look at other black people and you thinking like, man, you know, you think they know about certain things and they just don't, because it wasn't like a priority, uh, in whatever household they grew up in, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. Growing up in Memphis, man, it was just everywhere. I mean, April is a good time to be in Memphis also, because they have uh, a festival that takes place every year called Africa in April, and you can get tons of like literature and all of that stuff, man. So you should make a trip to Memphis
Yeah.
when you get a chance.
I
And
will.
I can write down some places for you to stop, man.
Yeah.
As you can, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. That sort of reminds me of the conversation that I had with Jerron Marshall, where he talked about walking those train tracks. You know what I'm talking about?
Say it again.
He, where Jerron Marshall grew up in Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
his, I can't remember if he was walking to school or walking to work, but it was along the train tracks that brought the black people in from where after slavery they were kind of sectioned off. You know what I'm talking about? And how that was like a daily
I don't.
reminder every day when he was reminded of this struggle every day, and it ended up empowering him, because he felt like he wasn't pulled down by his ancestry as much as being lifted up through their struggle. I remember that.
I can see that. I
Yeah.
can see that, and I agree with that.
But in those
You know?
towns, I mean, in those areas, like that's where, like Memphis, were your parents old enough to go through the civil rights movement and everything?
No. Yeah, my mom was she was a little girl when Dr. King got killed, but she remembers it though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've sat and talked with elder black people that were young adults when that happened, and to hear people's stories of like meeting Dr. King or like seeing him for the first time, man, it's pretty powerful. And to go, past the churches and stuff that he spoke at, in Memphis. And I mean, just to see, so like in Memphis is where, they have the Civil Rights Museum, right?
Right.
There's a, tribute to Dr. King, and part of the exhibit, you're able to go into his bedroom and kind of see the way it was laid out and everything before he was assassinated. And there's a new part of the exhibit where you can actually go across the street now and see the living quarters of the shooter.
Wow.
So that was pretty trippy. Yeah, man. But it, I used to, my neighbor, when I was in not college, probably a couple of years after school, I had I used to rent this this crib out, and the guy that was like my neighbor, this brother named Jonathan, his dad was one of the men that were on the balcony with Dr. King.
Oh, wow.
The day he was shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. He told me that like the bullet, it like nipped Dr. King's chin and it hit him in the throat. Like, and when it happened, he was on the balcony, like having a smoke or whatever. And then like, yeah, man, his dad saw the whole thing happen. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So that's kind of like, the little Memphis history, one of the what's the word? One of the advantages, I'll say, of growing up in a city like Memphis, you can hear firsthand,
Right.
historical stories like that.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right
From
there.
people that actually were there and saw it and experienced it.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting that era has been on my mind a lot, and probably a lot of other people with the passing of John Lewis. There's a thing that I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but as I grow older, I realize that I have become more grounded spiritually, but that spiritual foundation is all from Star Wars.
you said from Star Wars?
Yeah. Like there's just a lot of it that like it makes sense to me. Like use your feelings,
Mm-hmm.
use the force, don't give in to your hatred. Like all these great, like it's basically like I realized that I got older that I had a foundation that was somewhat spiritual, and it came from the 58,000 times I saw that movie. But there's a thing that happens that I know this sounds really strange, and he wasn't murdered or anything, but there was a power to John Lewis as he walked among us. But there was an extra amount of power, like when Obi-Wan Kenobi gets struck down and he becomes only more powerful because he becomes just part of the Force. And I feel like in the passing of John Lewis, there has been I feel like almost a good education on stirring things up and staying, because you see a guy that dedicated his entire life. I mean, his entire life was dedicated to this.
Yeah, I saw the special that CNN aired. I think it was like the day after his passing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really cool, man, to hear his and see like his whole journey with the civil rights movement and his level of activism. And his story, man, is really powerful. Where he talked about um, meeting Dr. King for the first time, and he introduced himself. He said his full name, and Dr. King, still treated him like, he was a kid or whatever.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
like, okay, boy, go sit down. But yeah, man, John Lewis, uh, yeah, it was eye opening. Um, so many of our people, man, younger Black people, a lot of times, man, we can be really hard on uh, our elders, but we're really, we're so unaware of how much um, they sacrifice for us.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can be too hard on them. Like, man, we feel like you guys should do more. You should have did more. And it's just like, man, you know, who's to say, during those times, how many of us, if we were living during those times, would have had the strength, the perseverance, and the courage to do what they did, So I've definitely, um, through the years, man, had to check myself and be careful, not to be too critical of, uh, the people that came before me, because the fact that I'm here today and alive and able to make music and to talk about, uh, what we're talking about right now, and to be able to, uh, participate in um, in political things, right, and social activism and things like that, is evidence that Black people made all the right decisions to get us to this point.
Yeah.
So,
There,
yeah, man.
there was an old interview with President Obama from the Mark Maron podcast. I don't know if I shared that with you. I think I remember talking to you about it, or maybe I talked to Bevis about it, and I'm just remembering talking to somebody about it. But there was a he addressed that very thing, that like, while there's still a long way to go, and systemic racism and the way, right down to like redlining and all of this stuff that I've learned about through the last couple of months, that even though those things are in place, we don't realize how far we have come.
Hmm.
That, and also how not far we had come, because I saw that the documentary The 13th on Netflix. And I'm not going to lie, James, when they said that that Mississippi had not ratified the 13th Amendment until 2013, like I was like, wait, maybe this documentary is taking everything a little too far. Like, there's no way that's a real thing. So I paused the movie, I Google it, and had like almost a cartoon thing where your eyes come out of your, like, when I saw that,
Hmm.
that was 1 year into the first Black president's second term when they ratified it. And I'm laughing out of not that I think it's funny. It's out of astonishment, where that's really the only reaction you can have. And to know that things have moved so glacially, as Bevis put it.
Bevis.
Yeah. Dude, he's so right
Yeah.
about that. I've been using that since he said it to me. Change is glacial. I mean,
It's like chess, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like you're in a position, and if you move this, you don't want to give up your position, and so we're seeing like this generational tug of war that's taking place, and you look at documentaries of like the civil rights movement, and you see video of police officers sicking dogs on Black folks, and fire hoses being pointed at Black people, And those same people that are in those videos doing those things to black people, you know, you know, those people had children and grandchildren, and some of those people are still alive, right? So this didn't happen 2,000 years ago, right? So we've overcome a lot, but we still have a long way to go, man,
Yeah.
because it wasn't that long ago where that type of chaos was happening towards black people. And then, with the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, it's just a constant reminder that this shit hasn't went anywhere, man. Just when we think we've evolved from that, we're so much better than that. Situations happen that prove otherwise.
Yeah. I one of the things that has, I think that had such a lasting impression on people and an effect on people, and I just learned about it throughout this time, is Birth of a Nation. And I didn't realize that movie came out in 1950. I didn't even realize they had movies in 1915. It's one of the first movies. It was the first blockbuster. And there was all this, I can see in people that I know that are racist, I can see their education. Well, I also learned about generational trauma throughout doing this, which gave me a greater understanding of my own family and their own traumas that they had that have been passed down. But one of the things I think that was passed down by Birth of a Nation to white people is this sort of inherent fear of a black man. And I feel like that movie single-handedly, at least as far as I can tell, sort of set this precedent for people that to where, it goes all the way to my stepmother. You know what I mean? An irrational fear of a kind of person because they're coming to get you.
Mm-hmm.
There was even one of the speeches that the president did when he did that weird Tulsa thing. I watched a little bit of that, and he talked about people coming to get you in the middle of the night. And that's the same image that people put into that film that ended up sort of informing. I didn't know that movie, there was no, that the KKK didn't burn crosses. They just did it in that movie, and then that became their thing. I mean, that's just, it's really fucked up, It's fucked up how this kind of propaganda can work like that. And then you for me, seeing things like the 13th, where you see the way things are presented on the news when you're, you know what I mean? And
we talked about it last time, in terms of, black people being, viewed as liabilities, our lives are not viewed as an asset to society. Right? So the police were formed to serve and protect, right? But nobody ever talks about what actually are, police designed to serve and protect, businesses and assets.
Right.
And if we don't fit into either one of those categories, then we have situations like what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah. How, on another subject, unless there's more you want to talk about there's still, in our local music scene, which a lot of people have talked about in this scene, and I even had Jackie on the show right after she put together that Blues on the Screen, but before I think she could even announce the lineup, really. How do you feel things are going on that front since we last spoke?
Oh man. Um,
They created the
I mean,
Black
other than
Music Fund. Do you?
yeah, I saw that Shaka's working on that. Um, with the whole lockdown, man, it's I mean, other than seeing stuff on social media, it's really hard to get a, a, a feel of what type of energy, is really, um, because I haven't left home, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, yeah, so it's man, I'm pretty much limited to who I actually follow on social media and what they're posting. I do know that um, um, a lot of musicians have been collaborating more now. I got a chance to write some music with Ray Prim, um, Jerron. We've been working together. Sam Houston. He and I are about to start doing some stuff.
He's doing the show
Um,
on Tuesday, by the way. Sam is.
awesome,
Yeah.
man.
Thank
He's
you
so
for that.
talented,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, man.
He's
He's
great.
a sweet cat,
He
man.
was on. He was on
Yeah.
that Blues on the Screen thing, and he was great. Were you able to see that at all?
I saw portions of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Chandra sent me like a link to it. And yeah, it was awesome, man, to see um, so much, black talent, um, that gets overlooked in Austin. And it's really cool to see them get seen and get noticed,
Chuck
and be in the forefront.
Chaka's doing another thing. I'm going to put this out later today, like we did the last one. The turnaround, immediate turnaround. But this is going to be happening Thursday, June 6th. Chaka's doing a Black Everything Matters.
Mm-hmm.
Do I sound funny saying that as a white guy? Black Everything.
No.
Okay. I always feel like I sound super white when I'm trying like oh, hey there, James. So the main thing that I feel like I've heard from people isn't so much like let's do this show or oh we'll put a black person on this show, is that let's move some people with an understanding and people of color into the positions of booking the thing. Like not just occasionally have a Jackie Venson put together a bill, but along with whoever it is that books this shit, have that voice in there.
Yeah, black programmers.
Yeah, do you
You
feel
know, we
like
need-
that's
Yeah, we
coming?
definitely need more. We need more of that. That's something that Bevis and I talk about, all the time, man. You know, you have a ton of, black musicians, black artists, creatives in town, but if we can get black people in position of doing the hiring, right?
Right.
Instead of always being the one that gets hired.
Right? No.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I know even in
Yeah.
my small world, I know that I do work with the Austin Music Foundation. They were interested in also sort of like, well, if this is, we want to fairly represent this community. And if we're doing some, I know that they've been open. I know that I set up, I introduced Bevis to Jenny, who runs the AMF, and they've talked and done stuff, and they're looking for. I mean, that's the only one I really know. I don't know who else is really making this sort of effort. But I imagine if the one that I'm associated with is doing it, then there must be others that are making a concerted effort to bring black people into the fold of the decision-making process, as opposed to just the token artist that checks a box, which was something that Jackie had really kind of been rallying against.
And right now, because live performances have totally slowed down. This is the perfect time to get all of that shit in place so that
It does come back.
when and if
Yeah.
things come back, um, we'll see, um, venues, booking new bands, uh, we'll see the change, right? Um, when things open back up. So this is the perfect time to get all of that together, man. And if you are someone in Austin that handles booking at certain venues, man, now is the time, man, to start reaching out to someone like a Shaka or like a Bevis or even you, and ask, like, who should we have? Give me some names of some artists that should be playing here, should have an opportunity to share their music live here at our venue, right? So yeah, now is a good time, man, to get all of that together.
Yeah. People have been talking about having like a black club, black nightclub, a black venue, or black venues, like there maybe once was. And that sort of led into these conversations and sort of things that I learned about in almost like a Black Wall Street, that at one point before the Civil Rights Bill passed and stuff, there were neighborhoods and almost little towns where there were black-owned businesses. And there were, I mean, and one thing that I did notice in conversations with some people is that was, it was almost better that way to some. What is your vision on that?
Well, my thing with Black Wall Street is that, yeah, black people, we had our own businesses and all of that, but when you establish a community and you're doing for self, and you have black owned businesses, you also have to establish some level of security, because the situation at Black Wall Street, we had no way of defending what it was that we built.
Right.
And so, yeah, and that's a problem, man. Black people need a security force. If we're going to be dealing with all this, all of this racism here in America, man, black people have to be able to, have some type of security force in place to protect, black investment.
And to protect.
That's my thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a difficult, I mean, I understand that, but as a, it's like, a hippie kid that grew up on Sesame Street, I can't really understand why we can't just all get along, you know what I mean? Like,
well,
I still have that, like, why do you have to lock away,
Remember last time we talked, man, and I was saying how, the problem, man, with the issue with racism, because we live in a society where it's impossible for black people to know which white people are racist and which white people are not.
Right.
And sometimes we don't find out until it's too late.
Yeah.
And that's a hell of a gamble to take, know? So our last conversation, I was saying, based on our history in this country, man, black folks could make a legitimate claim that white folks are no longer allowed to police us.
Yeah.
Just based on our history.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, when I hear, and read about, Black Wall Street, that was the thing, man. It was like, man, black people didn't have enough guns to defend and protect what was theirs. And so if we're dealing with a race of people that feels like they can just come in and just burn some shit down and take some shit over, you know, think about this, man. No matter how, angry black people get, by the killing of George Floyd or, Breonna Taylor, black people we don't have the resources, man, or the weaponry to come, burn down white communities or like, just, we can't just go into a community and the type of people that we are, we have no desire to do some shit like that anyway. Even if we had it like that, we wouldn't do that. But I'm just saying, like, we can't just wake up and decide that we're going to go into someone's community and just take over their shit.
Yeah.
You saw what happened in Seattle.
Yeah. And
when the
Portland.
government got tired of,
Yeah.
of watching that shit, man, they sent the boys in and cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. I watched this weird interview. I guess this also brings me to, like, how do you, where do you think the voting, how do you think getting the word out to the importance of this next election, not just presidential, but on a local level, these are the people that the judges you'll be having to stand in front of, the sheriffs that you will be arrested by, or whatever. I'm not saying that everybody, I'm just saying, like, these are things that directly affect you. How much change do you think can be brought about through voting?
Well, I'll say this, right? People are gonna do what they want to do, and they're not gonna do what they don't want to do. And so people will vote because they want to, and people will not vote because they don't want to vote. And
But
we mentioned Sharonda. We mentioned Sharonda Robinson. We had a talk about her, and I've reached out, to her, and I wish I knew more people like her. But if we can get her on the show to talk,
I think it's going to happen.
If we can get her on the show to talk to the audience, then she can nominate, other people in her field to come on the show and talk and really push that. But we saw Diddy and celebrities, in the past try to push this whole campaign, vote or die, and all this shit. And once people lose faith in a particular system, no marketing strategy or pep talk will motivate people to do something that they don't believe in. So, I when it comes to voting, man, it's a personal decision, right? And
You don't think with the gravity of the outcome of things that people won't be motivated?
Well, no matter who was in office. I mean, there was a black man in office. Obama was in office, and people in Chicago were catching all type of hell.
Yeah.
When Obama was president, black people were still getting their heads blown the fuck off by police. I think that Donald Trump is such an embarrassment to a lot of people in the country that they just want him out, right? But no matter who was in office, black people were still catching hell in America. Didn't
Still
matter.
getting killed by police.
Yeah. So, when we listen to the song, right? World Stop Turning.
Yeah.
That song speaks from the standpoint of, let's be honest with ourselves. The world was fucked up before it stopped turning. So, I think we had this conversation privately where, we talked about how, a pandemic, what it does, it pulls back the curtain and it reveals all of the ills of society.
Yep.
And that's what we're seeing, when things stop, you were able to see just how fucked up the world is and has been for a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially our country.
Yeah.
So,
well, then I guess my question is, as far as a question of where do we go from here, do you feel like whatever change and awakening is happening, it's going in the right direction?
all we can do is see, man.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I could answer that, man. If you're asking the question, where do we go from here? It's because you don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I'm a musician. I'm not a politician.
Right.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
My job is to write about what it is that I see.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me tell you something, this world stopped turning. You really hit the nail on the head with it on that song.
And sing about what it is that I see.
Yeah. So you've been collaborating. You've been doing a lot of stuff. This song is great. Are you going to, I can play it on here, right?
You can.
Okay, so at the end of this, you're going to hear this beautiful song, World Stop Turning. I definitely recommend putting on some headphones for it because it is great. What are you going to do with this song?
Man, we were just writing music, man. Like when I did that, like I said, Mark Simmons, he produced that song. He's a drummer and producer based out of Dallas done. But
it's Brandon on drums, right?
No, that's Mark playing drums, man. Yeah, that's Mark on drums, Bobby Sparks on keyboards, Justin McKinney on bass, this cat named Kato on guitar, and am I forgetting somebody? Yeah, guitar, bass, drums, vocals, keys.
But you're gonna release it, or yeah?
Yeah. So there's a surprise coming.
Okay.
I'll just say somebody who has the reach to really put that song out there the way it should, heard the song and was really, really interested in it. And I was surprised, man, that he dug it. And so I'll give you a clue.
All right.
He's a white guy from Tennessee.
Blake Shelton?
Don't guess, man. No, it was. You know what? I didn't even know Blake Shelton was from Tennessee. He's from Tennessee?
I don't know. I imagine he lives there.
Okay.
He's a tall cowboy guy.
Yeah.
So,
but man, we're just making music, man. that's the best way I like to make music. I don't like to write a tune and while I'm working on it, like have this whole like plan of what I'm gonna do with it and all this that stuff, man. I was just writing, just working on music, like you know when everything shut down, man. Everybody was just kind of reaching out to each other, like, yo, email me a track, yo, send me this, like, send me that. And so, I was just doing a lot of work just out of the studio, man. So when Mark sent me that track, man, he was like, man, this thing is like 20 years old, like the demo that he originally sent. I wrote to that, and then they just kind of replayed all of the old parts. It just kind of brought it up to date, But I like how it came out.
Man, me too. I'd like to. You know what I've been listening to? I've been coming across these records, and I read this Questlove book a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And got into that Wake Up album that the Roots did with John Legend and other people. It was just like these new takes on these classic. This is the kind of song that I feel like would belong on a record like that. Like it has that sort of power and gravitas.
Yeah, man.
That's the only reason. I think that this is a powerful song that everyone should hear. And you have such a great voice, man.
So it's going to premiere on your show.
It's going to premiere in just a few minutes when we stop talking. Can I throw this other thing at you just on the outside of stuff, just some music stuff? Because I do think I'm a fan of you and your music, and your voice is gorgeous. And you also are an adventurous guy. There was a So Far Sounds thing that I saw, and had Brandon playing drums, and you sang out of two mics. One had an effect thing, and then the other one was dry. How did you come up with that? That's awesome,
man. So there's a jazz singer. His name is Vince, and Vince is friends with a music teacher of mine from back home, and I remember Vince seeing him do this. He had like this pedal where he would like sing with his own voice, and this was like, man, back in the late '90s. And so I always said, man, I'm gonna get a voice pedal. I originally wanted to, like the way guitar players have like a pedal
right,
where you can access like distortion and all of that. I wanted to be able to do that in real time with my voice, like almost be like a guitar player, but when I'm singing. So I ended up getting like this TC Helicon when it first came out on the market. And just started playing with that, and just got a bunch of like old pedals, like a Space Echo, and just experimenting with it, man. Like watching Bobby McFerrin and
yeah,
yeah, man, just kind of switching out in and out with the mic. I think it just gives it like a cool effect on certain songs.
Yeah. Well, I thought
so. That's where that came up. I imagined certain things, and then like in when I get a chance, like in the moment, I'll get a chance to do it. So there'll be something that I imagine, like a couple of years ago, and then in the heat of the moment, I'll get a chance to do it. Like, oh, okay, now let me try it. So
yeah,
that's where that came from, man. Everybody's been asking me about the Eric Johnson asked me about that the first time I met him. He he's like, man, I don't think I've ever seen like a singer sing with like two microphones. So he thought it was cool.
Well, it's weird because I
Yeah.
figured, well, if you're using a thing, normally I guess you would just bypass it. But the way you were using it was like, I was like, oh, he is doing it because you would emphasize certain words,
Yeah.
and that's it. And that would echo in this delay thing as you kept on saying. It's just brilliant, man. It was great. It was great.
Man, I met a cat, man, who I don't know what happened to this cat, man. I lost his information, but I met this dude one night um, that said that he could design, you know, a microphone pedal uh, combination for me where I wouldn't have to use two microphones.
Oh.
Uh, and shit, they probably have something. I got to Google it, but they probably have something that exists like that now at this point. This was like a couple of years ago, man. I met this dude who was like, man, I can make something for you where you wouldn't have to use two microphones, where you could like, it could, but TC Helicon, I mean, if you just want to deal with stomping on something all night, I mean, you can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I guess so.
that's how that started.
Are you taking part in any live streams or anything coming up musically?
I did Black Fret. I did a happy hour show with them, and matter of fact, we talked before the Music Casa. I did a live stream with Chandra.
Right.
We did for this platform called Music Casa, and I did a live stream recently, a couple of weekends ago, that aired in Mumbai, Free Flow Studios, in conjunction with Book My Show India. Yeah, but I wasn't able to promote that because it only showed
In Mumbai.
if you lived in the States.
Right.
Yeah, you couldn't see it. So doing a live stream thing.
All right. So people can follow you on Instagram. You're also official JamesRobinsonMusic.com.
Yeah.
I have to thank you again. This was, for those of you listening, James's idea to do this. And you've been a person that's made like one of the biggest marks in my life, even though we haven't known each other that long and haven't known each other that well. You have become very much one of the most important people in my life. And
Man, thank you.
I am really, I will never, I hope that we stay friends forever. I know that sounds weird, but
We will, man.
But
No,
I,
man,
I
you
will
got-
never forget your generosity of
Johnny,
time and commitment.
That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me.
Really? You really,
Seriously.
yeah, like I really, like, I can't give you enough credit for helping me see things differently. And I know that this has been an endeavor and other people are listening and other people are involved. But what happened between you and me that day will never leave my memory.
Man, thank
So,
you.
yeah, and the impact it's had on my
Thank
life.
you.
It's really changed the way I look at the whole world. Yeah. So,
Yeah, man. I think, man, we're all God's children, man. So it's like, man, if everybody, just take the time, man, to just, have a dialogue with your friend or your neighbor, and we take the emotions out of it, and everyone, be mature about, like Bevis always talks about, man, intellectual humility, realizing that, everybody didn't grow up the same.
no.
Everyone, you learned what you learned, you saw what you saw, you experienced what you experienced. growing up, how and where you grew up. And so take that into consideration when you're getting to know someone, or if you and someone else, you guys don't agree the same way about every single thing. Understanding that just because someone thinks differently than you about something doesn't make them evil.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. Much love to you, man.
Yeah, much love to you.
man.
Yeah. I'm very grateful to you and our friendship, and to have you in my
Man.
life. And also,
No problem.
you're a fucking badass in music, so that makes it even better. There's not like this, oh, my friend James, yeah, he's real cool, he's done some cool stuff for me. I don't like his music, but I love it, and I think you're such an amazing singer, and I'm not going to keep people from hearing World Stop Turning anymore. Thank you again for doing everything that you've done for me, and thank you for being on the show again. We're going to do a part 3 in a couple. Like I said, we check in every couple months and see where we're at.
Yeah. I'm loving each interview, man.
Yeah.
I check them out, man, and
you do,
even
and I
the ones
appreciate your feedback as well.
Yeah, even the interviews that aren't related to the subjects that we've been talking about since George Floyd.
Yeah.
I mean, I just enjoy your podcast just overall, man. It's just really, really, really dope to listen to in the morning when I have my iced coffee.
Well, thank you, man. I'm gonna go have some more iced coffee and put this show together,
Johnny,
and put it out.
I always listen to you, man, at the same time every morning when I have my iced coffee. So,
well, thank you.
So when I think of how did I get there, I think of iced coffee.
Well, good. I drink a lot of iced coffee when I do the show, so it's good.
I'm just teasing you, man.
No, I love it.
You, man.
Love you too. Thank you so much,
love
man.
you, man. Have a good day, brother.
You too, man.
You see another black body found. Tell me, where do we go? Different victim on the ground. Tell me, where do we watch go? The murder in the first degree. Tell me, where do we go? Justice for the family. You watch a murder in the first degree, with no justice for the family. Hoping everything will turn around, but the government won't make a sound. Strange times we're living now in America. What was life before the world stopped turning? Black people, what are you gonna do when the world stops hurting for you? What was life before the world stopped turning? Are you ready for war? War in the streets. Said it won't be no silence, and it won't be no peace. Are you ready for justice? Fight or run, 'cause it's gonna be some justice, even if it's justice by the gun. I was raised on the old laws, eye for an eye, and it's gonna be some justice, even if somebody gotta die. Tell me, where do we go? Go from here. It's a time for black power, 'cause I won't live in fear. Police, what are you gonna do when the people lose trust in you? What was your job before the world stopped turning?
Well, you got to, I'm here to tell you that the only way you gonna stop police brutality is you got to stand up and be brutal with this damn beast. You gotta step to this cracker or it will never stop. You can moan, you can groan, you can sing, you can pray, you can recite, you can claim you know all the Quran, Old Testament, all the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, the Quran, from Al-Fatiha to Al-Nas, you can know all the Meduneter. You can know Maya, truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, balance, order, reciprocity. You can name those of the Netter system. You can go and study the Urdu text and substantiate your position according to Urdu. You can study the